The seat you've been choosing your entire life is probably the worst one on the plane, and that's just the beginning of what you've been getting wrong. A 10-hour economy flight isn't transportation, it's a controlled endurance test. Your body stiffens, your focus dissolves, and every hour feels longer than the one before it. Inside a seat that was engineered around passenger density, not human physiology. Most people sit down, put on a movie, and surrender to whatever comes next. They accept the dry air, the swollen feet, and the 2-day recovery as just part of flying. They don't have to be. I've walked off long-haul flights completely destroyed. I've also stepped off others feeling surprisingly functional. The ticket price was never the variable. The system was. Here are 15 strategies that turn economy from something you endure into something you actually manage. 15. The 3-hour biological reset. The deep exhaustion of long-haul flying doesn't come from missing sleep. It comes from blood stagnation. At cruising altitude in a pressurized cabin, circulation drops by nearly 40%. Your heart is working harder while your veins are literally being compressed by the edge of your seat. Fluid pools in your legs, your brain goes foggy, your shoes get tight. The mistake most people make is trying to be the perfect quiet passenger, frozen in place, not wanting to disturb anyone. At altitude, that politeness is a health risk. Set a silent alarm every 3 hours. Not to pace the aisle dramatically, just 30 seconds of ankle rolls, calf pumps, and shoulder movement. That micro reset restores your internal circulation. Do it while the cabin is dark and everyone else is asleep. You'll land feeling like a person. They'll land feeling like furniture. 14. The back row is a strategic asset, not a punishment. Everyone rushes toward the front of the plane to save 5 minutes at the exit, and then waits 45 minutes in immigration. Anyway. Meanwhile, the back of the aircraft is quietly offering something far more valuable. On many aircraft, the very last row reclines freely because there's no seat behind it. You recover that missing 5 inches of personal space without guilt. You're also positioned directly beside the galley, where the extra snacks live and where the crew actually talks to passengers. And because airlines fill planes from front to back, the rows most likely to have an empty middle seat on a half-full flight are the ones everyone ignored at the back. That empty middle seat is worth infinitely more than being fourth off the plane. 13. Order a special meal and eat while everyone else waits. Airlines prepare special dietary meals, vegetarian, kosher, Hindu, in smaller batches. Because of how they're loaded and distributed, these meals are served first, every time. While the standard cart is still somewhere in the front third of the cabin, you've already eaten, cleared your tray, and headed to the lavatory to wash your face and brush your teeth while the rest of the plane is still trapped behind their dinner. One note from frequent flyers: Hindu vegetarian meals tend to be the most flavorful at altitude. Spices like cumin and turmeric hold up in dry cabin air in a way that salt-heavy standard meals simply don't, because your taste sensitivity to salt drops by about 30% at cruising altitude. Order the special meal. Finish first. Sleep earlier. 12. Dress for the environment, not the destination. You are entering a pressurized tube with humidity lower than most deserts. Your body will expand by roughly 8% on a long-haul flight. Those fitted jeans will become genuinely painful by hour 5. The psychological trap is wanting to look put together at the gate. But there is nothing comfortable about fighting a tight waistband for 10 hours at 35,000 feet. Merino wool is the right answer. It regulates temperature, handles odor well, and moves with your body. Compression socks are not optional if you're on a flight longer than 4 hours. And your comfort layers belong in your carry-on, put on after security and removed before landing. Dress for the aircraft, not the Instagram arrival photo. 11. The wide-mouth thermos changes the entire flight. Relying on the airline's beverage service means being at the mercy of the cart schedule. Those small plastic cups of lukewarm water aren't hydration, they're a gesture toward it. A 20-ounce wide-mouth vacuum thermos gives you a personal hydration station. But the real move is asking a flight attendant for hot water. Suddenly you can make tea, instant miso soup, or oatmeal. At 3 in the morning, when the rest of the cabin is staring blankly at a bag of cold pretzels, you have something warm and familiar in your hands. That psychological comfort is not a small thing. It changes the entire tone of the flight. 10. Save your best content exclusively for the air. Long-haul flying is 10% physical discomfort and 90% psychological management. When your brain is confined and understimulated, it starts to panic. That's what cabin fever actually is, a dopamine crash in a closed environment. The mistake most people make is arriving at the gate already content exhausted. They've watched things at home, they've scrolled at the airport. By the time they're in the air, nothing feels rewarding. The fix is to save your most anticipated show, the one you've been deliberately avoiding, exclusively for flights. Don't watch a single minute of it on the ground. When you're bored, your brain stops thinking 12 hours trapped in a seat and starts thinking 12 hours I finally have to watch this. You are no longer enduring the flight. You are using it. 9. The sick bag phone mount. The seatback screen is low resolution, often glitchy, and angled in a way that puts your neck into a downward strain position for hours. Your phone is a better device. The problem is holding it for 8 hours without your arms giving out. The common workaround, propping it against a water bottle, fails every time the plane hits turbulence. Here's what actually works. Take a clean, unused sick bag from the seat pocket, wedge the bottom between your phone and its case, hook the top over the tray table latch. Your screen is now at eye level, hands-free, costing nothing. Built in 30 seconds, every person in your row will ask you about it. 8. Treat the plane as if it has no power at all. Airlines promise USB ports. Those ports have been used by thousands of passengers and are frequently too worn or underpowered to actually charge anything meaningfully. Watching your battery hit 5% over open ocean, with 6 hours remaining, is a specific kind of stress your nervous system doesn't need. Bring a 20,000 mAh power bank. More importantly, charge your devices during boarding, before the doors close. Many aircraft cut power to seats during taxi and takeoff. If you wait until you're airborne to start charging, you're already behind. Board, plug in immediately, and by wheels up, you're at full battery and completely independent of the aircraft's infrastructure. 7. Use a seat intelligence tool before you book. Within the same economy cabin, there are seats that are genuinely worse than others, and airlines have no incentive to tell you which ones. The last row of a section often doesn't recline because of the bulkhead behind it. Some seats have misaligned windows, leaving you staring at blank plastic for 12 hours. Seats near the lavatories mean spending the night listening to vacuum flush sounds and chemical sanitizer. A seat research tool reveals all of this before you commit. Use it. And check again during the 24-hour online check-in window. Better seats frequently open up at that point, as passengers upgrade or change plans. 6. Your seat bag is your workstation. Your overhead bin is your warehouse. The passenger who stands up every 45 minutes to dig through the overhead bin is disrupting themselves as much as everyone around them. Every time you leave your seat, your body and mind reset out of any rest state you'd built. Before boarding, pack a small clear pouch with 5 items: noise-canceling earbuds, lip balm, your charging cable, hand sanitizer, and any medications. This bag lives in the seat pocket or under the seat in front of you. Everything you need for the entire flight is within arm's reach. You become a self-contained unit, you stop visiting your seat, and start actually inhabiting it. 5. The U-shaped pillow is mostly a waste of money, bulky to carry, overpriced at airport kiosks, and ergonomically counterproductive. The standard neck pillow pushes your head forward away from the headrest, which strains your neck rather than supporting it. If you already own one, reverse it. Thick part under your chin. It prevents the head drop that wakes you every time you drift off. The better solution? A deflated beach ball inflated to about 20%. Rest your torso on it against the tray table or place it under your feet. Raising your feet 3 or 4 inches off the floor shifts your pelvis and removes the compressive pressure from your lower back. It weighs almost nothing. It works better than anything sold at an airport travel shop. 4. The visible seatbelt is your do not disturb sign. Flight attendants are required by regulation to confirm that seatbelts are fastened when the sign is on. If your belt is hidden under a blanket, they must wake you to verify. This is not rudeness, it's procedure. The solution takes 2 seconds. Always buckle your belt over your blanket or outermost layer, with the metal buckle clearly visible. That visual confirmation gives the crew the green light to pass you without interruption, even during moderate turbulence. One small adjustment can protect 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep. 3. The 45-minute landing refresh. The final hour of a long flight is when most people give up. The combination of recirculated air, low humidity, and hours of compression has settled into your skin, your eyes, and your general mood. 45 minutes before landing, before the final seatbelt sign, take your seat pouch to the lavatory, Face wipe to remove the cabin film, teeth brushed, eye drops, moisturizer, 2 minutes of deliberate effort. When you walk off the plane, you don't look or feel like a survivor of the flight. You look like someone who just arrived. That psychological shift carries you through immigration, through baggage, and into the first hours of your trip with actual energy rather than depletion. 2. Skip the free wine. Get a day of your life back. The free drink in economy feels like a small win against the system. At altitude, it costs you significantly more than it gives you. 1 drink at cruising altitude affects your body like 3 at ground level. Alcohol is a diuretic in an environment that is already critically dry. It doesn't produce restorative sleep. It produces unconsciousness followed by a pounding headache and amplified jet lag. You pass out, but your body doesn't recover. Electrolyte tablets and water instead. Save the celebration for when you've landed and actually have something to celebrate. Stay hydrated, and you'll process the time zone shift roughly 50% faster. You aren't giving up a free drink. You're buying back an entire day. 1. The center block aisle seat. Everyone fights for the window seat to lean against the wall or the outer aisle to have an easy exit. Both are tactical mistakes on a wide-body aircraft. The window seat passenger and the middle seat passenger both have only one way out: over you. You will be disturbed every single time either of them needs to move. The aisle seat in the center block, the D or G position in a 3-4-3 configuration, operates differently. The passenger in the true middle of that center row has a choice. They can exit left or right. Statistically, they choose your side half the time. You have just cut your disturbance probability by 50% while keeping complete freedom to stand and move whenever you want. It is the most geometrically intelligent seat choice in economy, and almost nobody takes it. Flying economy doesn't have to be something you recover from. It's a system, and like any system, it responds to the right inputs. Stop being a passive passenger. Start managing your environment deliberately. The same 12 hours that leaves most people wrecked can leave you functional, rested, and ready for wherever you've landed. What's the one thing that's either saved a flight for you or turned it into a disaster? Drop it below. The best answers genuinely help other travelers more than any tip I could give. See you on the next one.